Take a moment to peek into the lives of inspirational people living the true definition of happiness with author, presenter, personal stylist and coach Moana Robinson, who chats to people who have overcome challenges to live their best life. Moana is a passion and purpose coach and a personal stylist who empowers others to discover their best life and style regardless of age. Here is Moana.
Hello everyone, it's Moana Robinson here from Take a Moment and Be Styled for Life, and I am very pleased to welcome to this podcast Katie Gordon, who has got a business called Dietless Living, and she's also got a podcast called The Wait Is Over. Welcome, Katie.
Hi Moana, how are you going? Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm great, thank you, and I'm very excited to see you again. We first met at Ed Zia's meetup in Brisbane quite a few weeks ago. The weeks are just rolling by.
I know, it's about 6 weeks already.
I know, yeah, it's gone so quickly. And I was very impressed with your enthusiasm and your passion for your business. And I know that usually when you have a passion for a business, it's because there's some personal reason behind why you started the business. Can you please tell the listeners how you started your business and the reason that you started it, and what your business is all about?
Thanks, Moana. Well, I started the business because I had a weight problem for 25 years. I could lose weight, obviously, like most people, but I always piled it back on. Good old yo-yo dieting. And I really did try over that 25 years I went from doing crash diets and fad diets to, well, what the hell's really going on here? Like trying to work out what was my problem that I had that I kept putting weight back on. And so I did loads of study and research into human behavior, mine specifically. And that's really why I've started Dietless Living, is because, for that 25 years of trying ineffective weight loss solutions, I mean, they work for the short term, sure, but, what we want is long-term sustainable weight loss. And what that actually comes down to is long-term sustainable habit change, which is easier than it sounds when you're trying to work out how to actually do that. So I started the program because, nobody should suffer like that, because it is a suffering when you really want to change and you're just looking everywhere and you're not finding the answers. That is really just so emotionally disturbing for us. And that's why I started Dietless Living, because I really want to help other people to avoid or get out of dieting hell.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it, that diets are so short term. It's not a way of life. I think if people are overweight, they just want to not to have to think about diets and that constant. It must be always on someone's mind when they're trying to lose weight.
Well, that's really the reality of it. You've summed it up really very well there, because as an overweight person, all I thought about was food. That's why I was overweight. I was eating too much, and food was constantly like my brain saying, hey, let's eat, sugar, and let's have this. And then the whole thing of going on a diet is about focus on food. Now, a person who's giving up cigarettes doesn't have to constantly think about the thing that they're giving up, or the same with, alcohol or drugs or even shopping. You don't really have to focus in on the thing. But with diets, you've got to reinvent the way you cook. You've got to reinvent what you're feeding yourself on a day-to-day basis. You've got to restack your pantry. There's so much to it. You're going to count calories. Like, your whole focus is narrowed in on the thing that you're not meant to be thinking about. So it's just kind of convoluted thinking, it just doesn't work for the long term for most of us, because some foods are really important to us and we want to continue to enjoy those through our life.
The popular thing at the moment seems to be having protein shakes and diet shakes, like meal replacement shakes. What do you think of those?
They're all short term as well.
Yeah.
You know, the meal replacement thing, well, I've done those as well. And eventually it's like, oh, I'd like to chew my food. Thanks very much, you know, and it's just, it's not breaking free from what is the actual problem. Because when you think about those shakes, they're all in lolly flavors, Rocky Road, chocolate, vanilla. They're not helping you to break the thinking pattern that is attaching food and sweetness, you know, like these wiring in our mind. We have to break that. It's the same with the injections that everybody are doing now, or intermittent fasting. I was reading one in a paper the other day, like a fitness magazine, and they were saying, you know, about eating windows, and you can just not eat for this amount of time, and then you can eat, and you can eat anything you like. You can have hot chips, you can have cakes, you can have your soft drinks and whatever. And it's like, oh, how is that helping? You know, like we have to sort of stop thinking between weight loss and health. It's really, health is what we're going for. So if we're not losing weight in a healthy way, then why are we losing weight? Because we want to have a great life. We want to have energy and vitality, and those kind of things aren't really providing that.
Well, sugar is apparently more addictive than cocaine, and that's what I've heard. And you know, sugar is in so many things, and also the sugar replacements have now been, you know, it's been said that they have carcinogenic effects.
Well, and they also trick your body, because, you know, it's still sweet on your mouth, right? So the signal to your pancreas and everything is, oh, sweetness coming, let's do our work. But then there's nothing coming. So you kind of, you're upsetting the natural rhythms of your body and what to do. And yeah, they have been actually proven to really lead to weight rather than lead away from weight loss. And we have to remember that all of these things are invented for big business to sell things. That's their job. But our job is to protect our health. So our job is to think about what it is they're literally feeding us, and ask ourselves a question: does that lead me to the health and happiness that I want, or is it just something to sell?
And it's really getting into a pattern, isn't it? Like getting into a pattern of feeling good, and then, for want of a better word, getting addicted to that feeling of feeling good and feeling in control, because control has a lot to do with it, isn't it? That's why a lot of people sort of go overboard with the weight loss, and sometimes it leads to other eating disorders, because then they go to the extreme.
That's true. It is a lot about control. It's about because we feel powerless. This is like my story, and I know it's the same for so many other women and men, that, you know, life is happening around us. There's a lot of things that maybe we don't have control over, and our weight becomes one of those things. We feel disempowered by our own inability to override the urges that are driving us to consume food and beverages that aren't helpful to us. And, you know, we have different points. I can remember the different points in my time when I jumped in and lost weight, and whether that lasted a long time or whether that was very short-lived depended on how much control I thought I was having in my outer world. And that sort of mapped across to how powerful I felt on myself in that moment, to abstain from food, because that's really what we've been trained we have to do. We just have to abstain. And willpower will always fatigue. If you've got a lot of stuff going on in your life, you're too busy with that to manage this. You know, like if you think of willpower as the beach ball, if you're trying to hold a beach ball underwater, the minute you let go, up it comes.
It's a really great metaphor for willpower. Yeah. And I think sometimes a lot of people are trying to feed that inner child. If they feel as though something's missing, they want to reward themselves. Is that the case, do you think?
Well, it certainly does come with, before we eat something, there certainly does have a little bit of a preamble in our mind of, I deserve.
Yeah.
Like, I've worked really hard. I deserve this, and we mightn't use those exact words, but there's something very similar. And it is, I've had a big week. I'm exhausted. I've done all the right things. And that's usually what it is. I've done all the right things for everybody else. Where's my bit? And because we've only got a small window of time left in our day for ourselves, that's why it ends up being some kind of a food reward rather than an actual reward that provides us health and relaxation.
How many years ago would you say it was that you were overweight, and what was the trigger that made you decide that actually worked for you to lose the weight? Because you're the picture of health now.
Thank you. I've kept my weight off now for 12 years. So in 25 years, obviously, I hadn't been able to do that. I think the longest I'd kept weight off for in that time was about 2 years. And that was really a kind of a constant, real focus and battle on, hey, I'm on a slippery slope. But the catalyst for me to make change was, it's quite a long story, which we'll leave for another day. But basically, I got to a point, and it turned out to be New Year's Day 2011, after having really given it my all for the last year and not getting anywhere, just sort of going, well, I'm probably just going to be fat forever. That's it. I'm just going to have to accept this is it. This is what my life is. And what I'm going to focus on is being happy and being healthy, because, as I said, I wasn't of the mindset that weight and health were the same thing. It was just, I want to be thin, I want to be thin. And so I went, okay, well, for the last 25 years, I've been trying to lose weight. I haven't been happy for 1 minute of that, because even when I did lose the weight, I still wasn't happy with myself or life. I was still like, oh, I've still got, this, or I've got a fat bit there, or we're so judgmental.
Yeah.
That I thought, well, I'm going to just take everything that I've learned over 25 years about mindfulness and present moment and, relanguaging myself and all these principles and philosophies for a happy life. I'm just going to work out how to implement that into my life. And I'm just going to focus on being happy and healthy. And that's what I did. And I ate what I wanted for that year. I wasn't worried at all, but I was monitoring my eating habits in the way of, well, why am I eating? Is it about happiness? I was concerned with my happiness. Does this food actually make me happy? How do I feel afterwards? And I just did a lot of different things, and without any other intention but to be happy. Because the hardest thing when you haven't been happy in that long, it's kind of hard to go, well, I know how to be happy. Happiness is a skill. So I really was teaching myself that. But by the end of that year, I'd lost 20 kilos.
Wow.
The 3 migraines that I'd been having every week for the last 20 years were gone, and the fibromyalgia and all the other aches and pains and gut problems. And it was like, hey, that's really interesting, isn't it? Health and happiness maybe trump weight loss.
That's amazing. And it's really all about looking after yourself, taking care of yourself and treasuring your body, treating yourself as the most important person in your world.
Absolutely. Because we are an amazing vessel, right? If you think about us, we're just a walking miracle.
Yeah.
And really, health and happiness does trump everything, because that's really all we want at the end of the day. We think weight loss will make us happy. So let's just go straight to happy.
there are a lot of unhappy thin people.
Absolutely. And a
Yeah.
lot of unhealthy. This is the thing about slenderness. We've got quite a lot of mixed messages in our mind because we think of slender as healthy. Like we've equated those two things in our mind, and maybe that's been through marketing or whatever, but it's not true. There's a lot of thin people with a lot of health problems, because of poor diet. Like there's the gym junkie who walks outside and vapes and overdrinks, and there's a difference.
There is a huge difference, and it is really complex. And we could talk for hours and hours. With your business, how can people lose weight? You've got online courses, have you?
That is correct. I've got one of the Dietless Living comes with a full course. It's a curriculum that you go through because it really is about changing the way that you think and feel about life and adding more joy and playfulness back in and not being focused in on food. So I actually don't really teach a lot about food, just some really basic, simple stuff, because it's all the rest of the things that we have to do. So yes, it's an online course. You can have coaching or not coaching. It's up to the individual.
Well, that's fantastic. And I really love the way that you've taken a life experience that you've had and transformed it into something that can help other people.
Thank you, Moana.
What's the best way for people to contact you? Is it through your website?
They can go to my website and send me a contact page from there, or just jump on LinkedIn. I'm very active personally on LinkedIn. So send me a connection request and a message and say hi and let's start a chat.
Thank you, Katie. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, and I really appreciate you coming on to take a moment.
Thank you so much, Moana. It's lovely to see you again and be on your show.
Thank you for listening to Take a Moment with Moana Robinson. Remember to visit her website, bestyledforlife.com.au, and book a time for a further conversation.